All right, so today we're going to start talking about box and whisker plots. And in order to do that, we need to learn a few new definitions. So the first one is going to be the range. Okay, and the range is the difference between the greatest and least values in a set of data. Okay, and this is affected by extreme values. Quartiles are values in the data that separate the data into 4 equal parts. So I like to think 4 quarters in a dollar quartiles. Okay. And then within those quartiles, we have an upper and a lower quartile. And this is going to be the mean of the lower half of the data and the mean of the upper half of the data. Okay. And then to find the inner quartile range, you are just subtracting the upper quartile and the lower quartile. Okay. An outlier is an extreme value. So this is something very high or very low when compared to the rest of the data. So for instance, say we had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 93. 93 is an outlier because it is so different from the other sets in the numbers. Okay, and in order for something to be considered an outlier, it has to be 1.5 times the inner quartile range away from the lower or upper quartile. Okay, so that may be a little bit overwhelming, but we're going to go through all this. You'll notice for example 1, I already took my data points and put them in order from least to greatest. So go ahead and take a second to do that while we start talking about the median, lower quartile, upper quartile, and outliers. Okay, so we said that one of the quartiles is always going to be the median. Okay, I already have my data in order, so I'm going to do it how I usually do it, but I'm not going to actually cross off the numbers this time, just because I'm going to need these numbers for later. Okay, so when I get to the middle, I have a tie. So remember when that happens, I just take the average of these two numbers. And my median is going to be 56.5. So my median is right here. Okay, then we're going to look for the lower quartile and the upper quartile. So remember the lower quartile is the median of the bottom half of the data. So again, I'm going to do this and I get two numbers in the middle. So I'm going to find the average of them. And I get my lower quartile to be 52.5. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my upper quartile. Find the median. Same thing. I get two numbers, so I find the average, and I get 61.5. Okay, so there's my upper quartile. There's my lower quartile. Okay, so then the last thing we need to find is our inner quartile range. Inner quartile range. And remember, to find that, all I'm going to do is take my upper quartile and subtract my lower quartile. And I get 9. Okay, so remember we need this number here to find out if there's any outliers. Okay, so we said that an outlier is 1.5 times the IQR away from the LQ or UQ. Okay, so that would be considered the boundaries. These are going to be our fences here. So I'm going to take 1.5 times 9, because that was our IQR, which is going to be 13.5. Okay, so if we look at our lower fence, we can think of these as fences. It's anything outside of these numbers. I'm going to take my lower quartile, which was 52.5, and subtract 13.5. which is 39. So if there are any temperatures 39 or lower, that would be considered an outlier. And there's not. Our lowest temperature is 49 degrees. Okay, so let's look at our upper fence. So our upper quartile was 61.5, and I'm going to add 13.5 to that, which is 75. So any temperature higher than 75 is going to be considered an outlier. And you'll notice we have a temperature of 76. So we have an outlier of 76. Okay, and maybe just to explain this better, my lower fence I subtract because I'm seeing if there's any outliers this way. My upper fence I add because I'm seeing if there's any outliers this way larger than those numbers. Okay, all right, so now we're actually going to make what's called a box and whisker plot. Okay, so we're going to start this on a number line. And let's see, our lowest temperature is 49, our highest is 76. So I think I'm going to start at 45 and just go up by fives. Oops. Okay, and now I'm just going to put everything on here. Okay, so first I'd like to start with my median, which was 56.5. So that's going to be about right here. 56.5. My lower quartile was 52.5, which is going to be about right here. And my upper quartile was 61.5, which is going to be about right here. Okay, and this is where this box comes from. Those three numbers, okay, our lower quartile, our median, and our upper quartile. Okay, then we add our lowest and highest number that are not outliers. So if I look at my set of data, my lowest number that is not an outlier is 49. So that's going to be about right here. And we just draw it like this, and that's 49. And my highest number that's not an outlier is 63. So that's going to be about right here. And those are going to make our whiskers there. And then the very last thing we need to do is add our outlier to our set of data. So our outlier was 76. So I'm going to make a little dot over here at 76. And this right here is our outlier. Okay. And just to remind you here, this number is the highest number, not an outlier. And this was our lowest number, not an outlier. And that is how you make a box and whisker plot.